Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about a new theatrical release, News of the World. Before we begin, let me know in the comments if you are looking forward to this or what your thoughts are if you've seen it already. And make sure to give this a thumbs up if you like these reviews because it helps me out immensely if you do that. Also, if you're new here and you like movies, please consider hitting that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with reviews of new releases and some classics. But now, let's jump right into it. This stars Tom Hanks as Captain Kidd, a Civil War veteran who agrees to deliver a girl played by Helena Zengel, taken by the Kiowa people years ago, to her aunt and uncle against her will. They travel hundreds of miles and face grave dangers as they search for a place that either can call home. Based on the novel of the same name, this is written and directed by Paul Greengrass, the man behind United 93 and 3 of the 5 Bourne movies, and this is his second collaboration with Tom Hanks after the excellent Captain Phillips. Greengrass is someone who's known for his very high-stakes action films and thrillers. He manages to make plenty of 2-hour movies feel like they go by in a heartbeat, packing in a lot while still telling a compelling story. This is a much different sort of film for him for multiple reasons. For starters, this is him venturing into the Western genre for the first time, which is a genre we don't see too much of these days to begin with, outside of barely a handful of movies each year. Also, this is a much slower and more methodical film than most of his previous outings. It's more adventure-based than action-based, with our two main characters having to travel throughout the country. It's a little vignette-like in a way, with them making multiple stops and encountering various people who we only see for a small portion of the film. All the while, there's an overarching story showcasing the bond between the two as time goes on. It feels a little familiar as she's initially adversarial towards him, and there's a language barrier that also complicates matters, so naturally there will be some beats that show how their experiences change them and bring them closer together, but it works. I found the dynamic between Hanks and Zengel to be believable. What I appreciate is, even though they may not get along so great right away, it's not both of them flying off the handle at one another and hating each other. They both make various attempts to find common ground that just don't go over so well. Like early on, he offers her food and she almost eats everything on him, which gets him a little bit frustrated. And there's nuance to both of them, and that's brought out especially by 2 really well done performances. Tom Hanks, as always, is masterful. I can't say I've ever seen a bad performance from him, even if I don't like the movie itself. And that's not the case here. I did enjoy this, to be perfectly clear. But he expertly pulls off showing us someone who's been through a lot and may not be the happiest himself, yet he tries to bring a little bit of hope to others through his news reading. There's this sense of warmth to him as he tries to connect to others, though you can see from his weary facial expressions that he's clearly tired and worn down from all of his experiences. It's a fitting role for Hanks, and he once again knocks it out of the park like he always does. And Helena Zengel is excellent here. This is my first time seeing a performance of hers, and what I really appreciated is how there were so many scenes where she didn't say a word, yet she was able to convey so much through things such as facial expressions. There were so many scenes where Hanks would be talking to her, and he'd have all the dialogue in the scene, and all she'd have to do is just give him a look, and it brought about so much emotion, and that's some really talented acting right there. The film is also shot incredibly well. It has the usual darker color palette that Greengrass incorporates for a lot of his films, but the images were stunning. The wide shots of some of the landscapes we see through Hanks and Zengel's travels were beautiful to look at, and it's accompanied by a wonderful soundtrack. It felt very Johnny Cash influenced. At times there was this sort of haunting feel to it, other times it felt very mellow, and it really complemented the more somber, reflective feel of the film. Now, all that isn't to say there isn't any action whatsoever and it's all dialogue based. There actually are a fair amount of times where our 2 leads do get into some pretty tense situations, including multiple confrontations that become pretty deadly, and that's when Greengrass's usual directing style comes heavily into play. Now, it won't turn into a full-on action movie all of a sudden where Hanks just goes into badass mode. It's still within the world of this much more grounded, character-driven drama, but the situations these characters are placed in were very tense. There's especially one moment which I found to be the film's most exciting scene, where they take the wide-open countryside and manage to make it feel claustrophobic due to the positioning of some of the characters in this big shootout. And the way in which it's shot with these tight close-ups, it gave us the feel of being trapped along with Hanks and Zengel, and I thought it was some masterful direction right there. The film is also thematically wonderful. It touches upon themes of trying to do the right thing and finding meaning through helping others. Even though Hanks is reluctant to go through with this task, we see how he doesn't have it in him to just leave this poor girl, who he doesn't know, to fend for herself. And how, even though he has this job of allowing him to make others feel good for a moment through his stories, he's someone who now has the chance to bring about that same feeling to someone just because it's the right thing to do and not because it's just his job. And we see that sense of fulfillment he gets as things move along. Now, all that being said, while I did enjoy the film, I really only had one major criticism, but it's one that affected the entire movie, and that's the pacing. While this film had plenty of moments that were exciting, and it's an engaging story overall, it does tend to feel a little too slow. You can definitely feel that runtime in certain moments, especially a little over the hour mark. Sometimes it'll feel like it's about to ramp things up, then it slows down. It starts, it stops, it starts, it stops. There's one moment especially where we meet one character who jumps in to make this one major contribution, and then the main characters part ways with them like the very next scene, but not before we get a fairly lengthy sequence of hearing their backstory, and it just threw things off a bit. There were a number of moments like that. It all comes together in a nice way, don't get me wrong there, and it's still a solid story, but it's a little uneven in that regard. Overall, this is another solid film to close out a hell of a year. It's sometimes too slow and methodical to its own detriment, where the pacing will be thrown off at various points, but in the end, it's a nice story with a wonderful theme of just doing what's right and finding some sort of fulfillment in life. It's anchored by two great performances, along with some stunning direction, as always, from Paul Greengrass. It's in theaters in the US and on Netflix everywhere else, so whatever way you're able to see it, I recommend checking it out. News of the World gets a 7.5 out of 10. So let me know, did you see News of the World, or are you planning to see it, and what were your thoughts? Did you like the performances? Did you not mind the pacing? And do you have a favorite Western? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it, and for more movie reviews and film discussion, please make sure to hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.